everybody, it's Coach Hughes here from the Be Best You podcast with the idea of in order to lead others, you need to be the best version of yourself. And I'm very excited to have Dan Thurmon. Hello, Dan. How are you?
How you doing, Coach? Good to see you, John.
You too. Awesome. And I met Dan many years ago at a speakers conference, and I was able to actually take him and a couple other guys out to dinner, and we had a good time out there. I think it was we might have been in Denver. I'm not sure exactly. I forget exactly where. But Dan is
Denver. But, and the thing about John, when you go out to eat with a bunch of speakers, you never have to worry about a lull in the dinner conversation. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't. I was just in awe. I just sat at that table and not at that moment, not realizing some of the people I was sitting with and the accomplishments you guys had. So I was honored to be there that day.
We were honored to have you.
I'm never going to forget. So.
But, you fit right in. I mean, we're kindred spirits in a way because we're always thinking about how can we be better, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's kind of really, I mean, you have a book, off balance on purpose. You're a keynote speaker. You've been the president of the National Speakers Association. You weren't the president. I think you were the conference.
No, I was the president. I was on the board for 8 years, and I served through the entire leadership chain. I'm the current past president, representative to all of the past presidents.
Okay.
And I'm involved in a project now of kind of taking the whole NSA story and experience and creating a virtual experience with that. This year, I'm also chairing the Youth Leadership Program, which is an NSA component conference, which flows concurrently with our Influence Conference every year. So I'm all in with NSA, man. I'm always saying yes to lots of things.
No, and I know, and the guys that too have been wonderful. Clint Fulver, rising star.
Sure.
Jason Hewlett, a lot of, and then Tanis Roeder. I interviewed her 2 weeks ago. If you remember her, she was at a couple conferences. Just pretty cool. I mean, for me, what I get to do in my business is I get to teach and teach. And by the way, NSA, National Speakers Association.org. Isn't just for keynote speakers. It's for instructors, teachers, anybody coaching and teaching would benefit from their content and their conferences, which I think is in Vegas, right? This July?
Yeah, it's in Vegas this year. A couple other things on that. What we really say is it's the place to be if you want to become a better speaker and build a better business, because the word we like to use, or I like to use, is communication entrepreneurs. There's so many ways that you can use the power of the spoken word language that's very intentional and well-formed in order to uplift others, to build a business, to encourage folks from the stage, from podcasts, from videos, however you do it. And the way we look at it is we're all in this together, and we're all part of a much bigger idea, which is how do we leverage our words and our experience in order to lift others and lift the world. And so NSA is the place where you learn to do that.
I remember a speaker, I think it was at the Washington, D.C. conference. And when Mark was the keynote speaker there, he said to the whole room, I'm in a room with a bunch of speakers who, you have to have an ego and feel pretty good about yourself to be up on a stage. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, always remember the audience isn't there for you. They're there for them. So give them the information that they want. And I've never, Chris, how many times you hear me say that? That little line resonated with me, that whatever you have to say, don't make it about you. Give the people you're teaching and talking to the information that they want, since they paid to come to see you and talk to you. That's
true.
Yeah. So I think the Be Best You came from, I get to work with a lot of different leaders and managers, a lot of different levels. And the one thing that struck me was, in working with young people in particular, how a lot of them work really, the idea of working smarter, not harder. A lot of them work really, really hard. And that's what gets them into the position of leadership. But they don't really, in the position, that doesn't mean they're leaders. So now we have to make them leaders. And then you say to them to work smart. And I always had a problem with that, in the sense where, what does that mean? I'm dumb. And what I saw was a lot of younger people need to work smarter, learn to work smarter, always work hard, and having that balance in their life, whether it be family and faith or fitness or finances, all those different things that they don't realize that if one of those is out of kilter, it affects the three others. But what I was surprised about was it wasn't just the young people who needed to learn about balance. It was some of the older folks my age, 50s and 60s, that said, man, when I discovered balance in my life, that's when things changed. And you can't have one thing dominating. You need to have that. And that's where I love, a lot of the stuff you're doing has to do with that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, working smarter, not harder is a nice catchphrase, but it doesn't really describe the whole problem or the whole goal because, yes, working hard or working with purpose is very important. And the way I talk about purposeful work is that there's three levels. There's the level of survival, where a lot of people never leave the level of working to survive, regardless of how much money they make, because their work itself just becomes a means to earning money to fuel other things in their life. And it becomes this repeating cycle of, I have to earn some money to go pay the bills, and I bring that back to my job. And so the more money your job makes, the better, because it gives you more opportunities, but it's still the same circle. And then the next level is when you say, I'm working for satisfaction. I'm taking genuine pride in my work and efforts. And so, yeah, I'm making money, and that's required in order for me to have what I consider to be a sustainable job. But there's this next level that I am getting a lot of joy. I'm getting a lot of satisfaction or juice out of what I do and the way that I do it. And I'm bringing our creative choices, artistic contributions. I'm taking great pride in what I'm doing. But then the next level, or the highest level, level 3 for me, is where you believe and you've found the connection between the purpose of your work, and it's not just survival, and it's not just significant, or it's not just satisfaction, but it's significance. We're creating something bigger as a result of what we're doing. So in order to do that, to get out of this idea of just harder and harder and harder, the shift that we're talking about is from tactical to strategic, from I know how to do the work and I can explain to you how to do the work, to I'm elevating myself above the entire situation of this business or this leadership team or the world that I have the honor to influence. And I'm saying, how can I best bring that sense of purpose? Because one of the greatest senses of significance that you could bring to your world is to elevate others, to develop future leaders. There's the founder of NSA was Cavett Roberts, and he was quoted. I listened to a recording of him saying this recently. He said, I believe the highest calling of any professional is to take their job so seriously, to take their profession so seriously that they will not leave it until they have developed someone who is as good or better than they are to replace them. So we're constantly in this habit of trying to create new talent below us and taking great joy and pride in that. And so that's the real juice for me.
Yeah, I was going to write some notes down, then I figured, you know what, I'm going to have to replay this back because I can't write. There were too many nuggets there. But the purpose thing, where one, I get to see young people who are building their career, and young people today, as you know, will work more for a purpose or a cause. Money isn't as important. And then you get some other people on the higher end of the work of the management leadership side, where they've worked so hard and they don't have a goal. And that purpose word that you used is something we use quite a bit in here. Purposeful work, and joy was another word that I hear more and more about it. And people can and should have the opportunity to spend, I don't know how many percentage of your life you spend working, but man, what would it be like if you could be happy doing that and have some type of pause? But you can't do that when you're not balanced again. And I think I was brought up in the pre-call where this past year kind of woke me up to this idea of selfish and selfless. And where if you don't take care of yourself, then that in turn is actually selfish, where a lot of people think if you take care of yourself first, that's selfish. It's actually selfless if you take care of yourself first to help others. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I really like where you're going with that. The way I would frame it is, look, you can't give away what you don't have. And so if you're looking to create abundance in other people's lives and you don't have abundance in your own life, or you don't even have it together, or you're in such a precarious state with regard to your health or the quality of your relationships or your spiritual center, whatever that means to you, or just indulging in your uniqueness and your passions and the interests that fuel you and that help you reconnect to the sense of who you are. Like if you're not doing that, then you don't have a sense of capacity. If I could just, I know we're recording this, but I'm gonna also slide over to video in this room really quickly to talk to you about something super fast. So I'm here now in our classroom, and this was our response to COVID. Is we created kind of a virtual studio where we could teach in a specific way relative to my brand with mind, body, and spirit. So here we are now in the classroom. We've got a couple cameras in here, and on this screen here, I'm drawing 3 circles. Okay, John. So we've got the first one here, and you've seen a million Venn diagrams, right? And so they're overlapping circles. And the first one is willingness, right? So this W stands for willingness, which is how willing are you to really do what it takes? And so this is the question we're trying to answer as leaders about motivation. You know, are you not just wanting something or wishing for it to happen? It's not just a desire, but you're exerting your will, your personal action, you're investing your curiosity, you're willing to make mistakes and to learn along the way. And that's a question we continue to answer all the time because of like, you know, what we thought was required becomes revealed to be not enough. And so every day you're like, wait, am I still willing based on the ever-changing framework of my life? But if you say, yes, you are, then you can move over to this other skill set and you can say, what are the abilities that I need in order to accomplish what I say is important in my life? And so that's, what do I need to know? What are the skills that I need to develop? And you can talk to people who have these skills or have this knowledge, and you can map this line and say, I know how to get from here to here. But then there's this third circle right here that still is the crux. This is the key. And so many people know what they want. They say that they're willing. They believe they're willing, whether they're honest or not, that's another situation. They know what it takes, so they have some inkling of what's required, and they know where to get those answers for sure, but they don't have the capacity, right? So the capacity is like, how much can you handle, and your personal bandwidth for life. And the crazy thing is, when you think about it, as the great companies who are able to accomplish their goals, the great leaders who are able to elevate their teams, and the individuals who are able to demand more of themselves, regardless, all you ever get done, all that ever happens anywhere in your world is this little overlap, this little triangle in the center of where what you are truly and honestly willing to do, whatever it takes, where you developed the skills and learned the ability to accomplish that with your knowledge base. And then you have this within you, this capacity, whether it's energy, time, comfort level in the midst of change, where you can handle more, even though it's uncertain and even though it's constantly flowing. This is it. You know, this is all that ever happens. And so in my mind, to your question of balance, it's about expanding your personal capacity and you do that by connecting and aligning what matters in your life. I don't think it's ever about being balanced.
Right.
It's about balancing. It's about becoming a better balancer.
Okay.
Because balance is not what you achieve. Balance is what you do. And I'm going to slide over here to my other space. And
so I love that. The balancing. Right. Yeah. So I said balance. People want balance in their life, but I love that. And that just means it's constantly working. You're balancing. Okay.
Right. I mean, I wrote this book here, Off Balance on Purpose, really to liberate you from the idea of having to achieve perfect balance in your life, because we've been told that this is the goal, that if you work hard enough or smart enough or long enough, you eventually bring everything into proper balance. And now suddenly you have great satisfaction. And that's bull. Like that never happens, because life's not some hypothetical future moment. Life is the undeniable reality that right now and right around you, everything about your life is shifting and changing. And all the foundations that we think are so precarious are revealed in an instant to be not so, to be
Right.
moving and shifting and subject to the demands of others or our outside world. And we all experience that through COVID in a big way. But let me just illustrate this for you. And for those of you just listening to the audio, I have a lectern on my space. This is the big, what we call the action room, where I could teach with the full physicality of what I do.
Right.
And so this is where we do our virtual presentations. And I'm just going to kick up here and do a quick handstand to show you. All right, John. Now, as you're looking up here and you're watching me in a handstand on top of a lectern in a live Zoom broadcast. Have you seen this before, by the way?
I've seen you do things similar to it, but no, I mean, other than you,
no other Zoom presenter,
No,
probably.
no.
But if you'll notice, I'm not balanced. I'm balancing. I'm making constant adjustments and corrections, right?
Yeah.
And even after all that work and effort, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still in the same place. I'm just a lot more exhausted.
Yeah.
This is how most people deal with uncertainty. They say, how do I protect myself, restrict myself, work harder to stay where I'm at? And others say, no way, man, I'm going off balance on purpose. I'm going to initiate some changes connected to a bigger idea and a higher level strategic thought. And it's my choice. It's on purpose. I'm going that way. I'm not trying to be a little bit of everything. I'm biased toward what matters most to me in my life, to my values, to my team, whatever, to my family, whatever that is. I'll sit back down.
Wow, that was amazing. Yeah, when you said never seen before, I have only you. I haven't seen anybody else do that. So to give you an idea,
and it gets more impressive every year. You know, I'm 53 years old now, and people say, Dan, are you going to still be doing that when you're 60? I'm like, yeah, you bet. It gets more impressive each year. So why stop now?
And I see on your social pages where every once in a while you'll post something that you're continuing to work on. I believe one of your children is also now kind of gotten into the is it more of a gymnastics? What would you call your style of presenting?
Well, basically it's just me being me.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is I'm bringing all of me to what I do, because whether it's on stage in front of a big audience, hundreds of people at a time, or in a virtual moment like this, or with a huge virtual audience internationally, whatever.
Right.
We get one chance, right? You get one chance to really, truly make an impact on a human being. And it's in these moments that we have chances to pour into their lives in a deeper and more profound way. And you could only do that through your personal authenticity. Yeah. I reflect back my perspective of you by presenting you the totality of me, right? But you mentioned my daughter, our daughter, my wife and I, Shay's the one switching cameras by now, right?
Hi, Shay. We met at dinner.
She was at dinner with us too.
Yeah.
And Maggie, our daughter, is TikTok famous. She's a social media megastar now. She's in the past year and a half, she's grown her following from 0 to, at this point, 4.3 million. And then I've got about 700,000 on my TikTok page in terms of followers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the content is stuff that we do together. But again, it comes down to personal authenticity, positivity, encouragement, joy, dance. I'm doing more dancing these days than I've ever done in my life. And Maggie and I are actually starting a podcast July 7th called Wholesome Chaos, which is going to be pretty exciting and kind of a big deal. But the idea is, for us, is yes, how do you teach people and share the authenticity and the skills that you have? Both of my kids, Eddie and Maggie, are know how to juggle and ride unicycles, of course, as you'd imagine. But then, just bring some fun to people's lives and model a healthy father-daughter dynamic, which is the whole goal.
Yeah, I mean, my kids, my son's 22, has autism, and my daughter is a college athlete, and I'm so proud of her. And she's even starting to get into studying. She's a center mid in soccer, plays collegiate soccer, and has kind of had to find her own voice as a leader on the soccer field. So a lot of the content that I get to study and teach, I love to pour into her, only when she lets me, though. So one of the things that I do is I have a week-long program where we basically, I usually say on Monday, hey, take this life assessment in essence, and that's who you are today. And then I say, where do you want to be? But before we go there, you need to visit how you got here, which is your habits and your choices. Because if you don't address some of those things before you start moving forward, you're going to end up at the same place. And then once they address the past, then we actually integrate a vision board process where they'll all week they build towards who they want to become, and then they present at the end of the week this virtual vision board. Um, but you said it a couple times during that little last part.
Can I stop you and ask you a question
Yeah,
about that?
yeah.
So that whole piece about addressing your past, it
Yeah.
sounds so easy, right? Oh yeah, before we can get to your amazing future, let's just address your past. But
Right.
when we think about that willingness circle, you
Yep.
know as well as I do that some people just aren't willing to go there. They might say that they will, right? They might believe even on some level, they believe that they're willing to do what it takes to address the limitations of their past belief systems or the relationships or the resentments or the regrets or the whatever, the guilt that they feel like, but they may or may not be willing to go there. And as a leader or as a coach, what do you do when someone, you know, based on your experience, look, I know where you say you want to go in terms of ambition, but this piece here that you're unwilling to address is holding you back. And somehow I still have to try to help you. What do you do then?
Yeah, I mean, one is I figure out, like you said, is it fear? Is it, we have a thing where, one of the things I kind of, we call them Hughesisms, where I just say stuff and I don't even know what I say, but somehow it makes sense. And one of the things I said was, confidence is what we want people to have, but before you can do that, they need to be comfortable. And a lot of people are uncomfortable because, they have ADD, or they have dyslexia, they didn't get whatever their past images of who they are or want to be. We make them comfortable. Then when they're more comfortable, they're more coachable, and we can make them more competent. And when people are comfortable and competent, confidence kind of grows from that. But what I was leading into the question was that the first circle you drew, willingness, and I kind of chuckled because I was like, wow. And it's ironic that you're asking me this question. That to me is the biggest roadblock as a coach is I know you want that, but are you willing to do what it takes to get there? I use a quick analogy, and I don't want to do the talking, but I will say to somebody, do you want to win that? You want to have that, what that person has, success in their mind. And they're like, yeah. I go, well, are you willing to do this, 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 and this? And then they go, all of it? I'm like, well, you want that, right? And they're like, yeah. I go, well, then yes. And then like, are you sure? Can I do it? Can I get there and only do this part?
Show me the shortcut. That's what I want, is the shortcut.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I mean, and if you're not careful, you can become very cynical in our business, right? As a coach or leader or professional speaker, like in my case, hired to come in and open or close a big conference, which by the way, they happen every year. And there's always a big speaker and there's always a fresh message and it's always so exciting. And then you begin to say, all right, what really changes as a result? What really changes as a result of that speech or of that entire conference?
Right.
And the reality is not a whole lot for in the overall sense or picture of the entire team. Now, for individuals who are in that room, they need to keep being reminded of what that next level is or what is required, because something clicks for them and it comes into a new form or fashion. But that's been also what's been more rewarding to me about this period of time during COVID and the forced innovation. Because John, I never did a virtual presentation before COVID. I would resist it and I'd be like, no, I'm the performer guy. I love to be feeling the energy of a crowd. I excel in that arena, truly, and I do. But then when that was no longer an option, it forced me, just the same way it forced every other person and business on the planet, to say, okay, what do we do now? The things that we have been contemplating, how do we fast track that to a system that's going to work? How do we, require more and get more creative? And suddenly we thought, well, we discovered what we thought would take us 6 months to implement. We could get a reasonable facsimile in about 2 weeks and we can get this thing going. And so for me, I discovered not only the joy of producing this in such a different way, because every opportunity, especially of this magnitude, where where everyone is challenged in the same way. It's like this leveling of the playing field, and it gives you a new opportunity to differentiate yourself based on your willingness, your commitment to do more than others are willing to do, and just your distinguishing qualities, your characteristics and creativity.
Yeah, I just what you did there by moving into the room and setting up your studio and really thinking outside the box, making it happen. But I have to ask you this question, and it's the details that matter. And as a coach, you get to pick up on these things. I saw your clock was set to Eastern Standard Time on the wall there when you were going over to your first thing. There's the white clock, and it had 3:20 something. And you're not at 3:20. You're in.
No, I'm in Atlanta.
You're in
I'm
Atlanta.
Eastern
Okay.
Standard.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
actually have three. I have the clock in the action room isn't even on yet now, but the reason we did do that,
Yeah.
and that is very intentional, great observation, is because we want to, when we do a live event,
Yep.
we want to get full credit because it's so well produced that in some sense people begin to think, wait a second, is this live? And so we create some real-time interaction with the audience and creating word cloud stuff and whatnot. But just seeing that consistency of the time room to room, it is kind of a cool little detail.
Yeah.
And
No.
it success is in the details. You're right.
Yeah. No. It's awesome, and I love how you're integrating and adapting. We had a thing where we talked about what we were able to do as a company was pivot, and one of the analogies was used in basketball. Your pivot foot isn't supposed to move. And the idea is, and I'm trying to correlate that analogy because you were saying how when you had to go from live to virtual, you kind of adjusted or you made adjustments and you pivoted. And I was just thinking about how I can correlate that pivot foot in basketball where it doesn't move and you're balancing really by moving around on that.
Well, I could tell you what it was for me. The pivot foot for me was my brand. People expect Dan does something unexpected. He does mind, body, and spirit. He over delivers and creates wow moments that the audience never sees coming. John, I've got a rope that drops from the ceiling and I climb the rope up through the camera frame as we roll into a different video. And I mean, it's like Bozo's Circus in here sometimes because there's crazy stuff happening. I'm throwing knives around. I'm there's different things that are constantly unfolding, but it's actually more effective in some ways than even the live experience. But what I'm finding now is going back to live stages. I've got all the juice and the wood shedding experience and practice and creating new content and just the hard stuff what we've been through to make this happen. Man, when I get back on a stage, I've got a new gear that I never had before. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of content, and then the new videos that you have out, which I love, and I'll share the link so that everybody can follow you on your various social media pages. I follow you on Facebook. That's the only one I really follow.
Oh yeah, and TikTok, by the way, it's at Maggie Thurmon, Maggie Thurmon is my daughter, and I'm Maggie's dad 123, right? At Maggie's dad 123.
That's
if you are so inclined, or if you want to score bonus points with your teen. Your teenagers in your life.
Yeah, I probably need to download the TikTok app. I haven't done it. My wife has downloaded it, so I need to do that, I guess, myself. So
yeah, maybe put it off as long as you can, brother, because it's a hole.
Yeah,
it'll suck your time.
Now, I think kind of bringing it, be best you. In order to lead others, you have to be the best version of yourself. And the idea of being selfish, a lot of people feel like if I put me first, I'm being selfish. When if you don't put yourself first, you're being selfish, and you got to be a little bit selfless. Is that how do you think somebody can overcome the emotional block of taking time for them, and if they don't, what can happen, and if they don't?
Well, obviously there's the instances of complete devastation at the extreme of what can happen if you don't take care of yourself. But even beyond that, let's say I don't set goals in my life or prioritize my own desires. Like I've never been to these places. I have a list of places I want to go in my life. But at some point, especially once I become a parent, uh, a father, or even more in the case of mother, very, very often, it's like it feels wrong for me to prioritize my own needs and desires over others, because the nature of parenting is you subjugate your priorities to really invest yourselves in the lives of others. That can also become the mindset that you bring to your team or to the people in your life. And so at some point, we get our sense of identity, and wow, it is self-serving because I've helped others grow. So don't diminish that, but then also understand, again, you can't give away what you don't have. And so the greatest gift I believe that you can teach your kids is, look, you can continue to grow and learn and stay curious and accomplish things your entire life. Even once you're a parent, even once you have a family, you never lose your joyful ambitions. You never lose your childlike curiosity or your ability to fail and say, it's not a big deal. I can try new things and learn from them and get back up and do it again. Now, that's a lesson you want to teach everyone in your life, and especially your kids around you. And so the more you get in that space, you mentioned comfort, the more perhaps comfortable that is, or the way I put it is like this. It's like, I'm back over here. I'm like, you want to make yourself uncomfortable for the right reasons, because if you limit yourself to what's comfortable, do we have that slide? Here it is. If you limit yourself to what's comfortable, it's developing, you deny yourself what's possible. So that's the way I look at this statement, is like, I don't want to be comfortable. I don't want to stay in a place of constant comfortable. I want to be leaning in off balance, because to resist that, it's not depriving you or the world, although in some sense it is, because you're not giving your gifts. But I'm not getting, I'm denying myself what I say is important, what I say that is want, is just on the other side of this intentional struggle. But if you're willing to go into that intentional struggle, and whether that means confronting an addiction, which I've done, whether that means making amends to people in your life that you treated badly, which I've done, whether that means, going into these places that are extremely uncomfortable in order to create greater capacity, but also to model to others, look, this is the path to happiness. It's honesty. It's self-honesty and awareness. And it's not only you can't give away what you don't have, but it's the more you give, the greater your capacity for giving. You can't give away more than you receive. Now, this is something we've said in our family a lot. My wife, Shay, models this to the extreme. She's the most generous person I know in the world, even to the point of donating a kidney to a young man named Connor, 17-year-old, who she met exactly one time before saying, sure, you can have my kidney. I have two, which is crazy, right? Yeah. She has a gift. She has a capacity for that selflessness and elevating others. And yet, during that period of time, through her generosity or through just as a family, the trying to live that mindset, the blessings that come into our life, the opportunities of connection, of lifting others, of experiencing unexpected surprise, joy, and bountiful blessings that we could have never anticipated. It happens so regularly that you can only conclude, you know what, there's really no such thing as a selfless gesture. Because on some level, me being selfless is actually self-serving. Are you with me?
Yeah, no.
And that's the full circle of that whole idea. It's by being selfless and subjugating my needs to yours, I'm always going to win eventually in that realm. And maybe that's, some would say that has a faith-based connotation to it, for sure, that it does. But honestly, I've also seen it proven out in reality time and time again.
Well, you're a true juggler, because you juggled that question that I dropped, because I at the end of that question, I was like, where did I start with that? So nice catch there. and you saved me on that. So I don't think I'm going to edit that out. That's the reality of it all. But my mind's going.
No, leave it, man. We're just riffing. Yeah. This is just a flowing conversation. It's fun.
The other thing too, which is interesting, I have, again, these are my little things I picked up on, but in order to grow, you have to teach people what you know and then get out of the way. You had talked earlier about how you finding a mentor or coaching and mentoring somebody else, and with the idea that hopefully they become as good, or maybe in other cases, why not, better than you. And there's this fear or reluctancy to do that. And a lot of the people I work with want to grow from one operation to 2, 4, 5, 6. I say, well, the only way to do that is to teach others what you do so you can do what you want to do. In sports, I use that as a coach analogy. You can't cover your guy and somebody else's guy. And this idea of teaching others so you can then, but the I guess the question would be getting over the fear of letting go, because or maybe that's even the word. They feel like they're letting go when they're not. They're really allowing people to grow through that.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today in terms of not this conversation, but something I was going to share with Maggie, because as we grow through the podcast experience and merchandise and developing a new website, and you're working with so many people in that process, and to some degree your ability to succeed as a business owner, as a leader, whatever it may be, is restricted by the quality of people that you bring on your team, and your ability to empower them to succeed. And so, and the longer you live, the more you realize it's like a lot of success is checking in on other people, making sure they're doing what they said they were going to do, but it's not doing the work for them. It's not getting in the trenches and saying, look, let me just show you this is the right way. I always have to come in and do this over and over again. I look at it as like, if you think about it as like playing a tennis match, and as a leader, you're playing with several different people, like hundreds of people or dozens of people all at the same time. And your capacity, your elevated thinking is like, I can see all of these games happening at once. I understand the connection and the big picture, and I'm going to hit my shot when I have the opportunity as quickly as possible, so that ball, when it goes back over the net to them, they know what's required. They know what's expected. They're not waiting on me, which is the big key. I don't want anybody waiting on my input. Right. I want to empower them to be over there doing their thing, solving their problems, and come back to me with specificity when my input is once again required. But you have to simultaneously having this match, hitting those shots back and forth to a lot of people. And the moment you say, wait, I'm going to just catch this ball and hold it a while and study it, and I'll get back to you on that, you've just stopped the play. You've just stopped the advancement of anything that can happen in that realm. And so you just got to keep hitting your shots and empowering people around you.
Yeah. No, and I think too, in order to become the best version of yourself, be best you, lots of times it's allowing other people to help you get there. We have a says, help nourish, help flourish, be a sub above. I gave it away a little bit, but elevate is a big part of our culture here. And as a coach, our job is to help people flourish by nourishing them, and in turn, you're nourished, which is a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about through here. So I could have a thing. We're already at 50, so I don't want to keep you any longer, but I do want to have you just guide some people to where can they go to get some more information on your various channels that you have out there for people.
Sure. And so my name is Dan Thurmon, Thurmon. We're going to throw some things up here, I think, into the controls. Basically, here, I'll first do the lifelines thing, Shay, because this is, you mentioned my weekly newsletter, and this is for free. Okay. This is mainly for my audiences who've seen me perform and my clients that I work with and their teams. But if you go to just pick up your phone and text the word lifelines to the number 44222, so just like it is on your screen at the top, 44222, the word lifelines with no space, you'll get a reply that takes you to a sign up for my weekly newsletter. And it's a 2 to 3 minute, usually closer to 2 minute coaching video, like clockwork. Comes out every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. And we work really hard to give you really great stuff you can use and share with people in your life, not just about leadership, but about how to live better, how to love better, all kinds of things that create into that better balancing realm.
Right.
We also have that content through LinkedIn. We create other content, but honestly, if you want to really get to know me and Maggie,
Yeah.
go to TikTok, and you're looking at that right now. I think it's
Yeah.
like this is Maggie's page and my page. Uh,
Million. That's great.
Maggie Thurmon at TikTok, or at Maggie Thurmon, or Maggie's dad 123. And I'm really excited to see where that's going to go,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, John, I've been recognized now in more than I've ever been recognized in my life because of the TikTok following. Like, it
Yeah.
becomes a regular occurrence. I was at Chipotle getting a sandwich or a bowl yesterday, and the cashier's like, "Are you on TikTok?" You
Yeah.
know, it's pretty ubiquitous. And so my thought is, this is a huge opportunity for me to contribute to the lives of a whole new generation
Absolutely. It's brilliant.
that didn't know me before.
Yeah. No, that's great. And that's great. Um, and I think obviously the book, Off Balance on Purpose, definitely order that through your website, right?
Yep.
Especially
And
the
it's also available on Audible. If you're an audio listener like I am,
Mhm.
you might want to do that. And I read the book myself on the Audible version. And so, as a good friend of mine, Ken Futch, would say, that way all the emphasis and punctuation is in the right place.
Yes, yeah. Having somebody else read your writing sometimes doesn't sound the way you wrote it, or intended to write it. And then obviously there's
Exactly.
various other pages that they can follow you on. And I do the videos that you send out weekly, where you're in the different places. You're using a lot of different local backgrounds, and you're weaving that into your message, which I think is awesome. You can tell that just in today's podcast, the amount of work and effort and passion and joy, back to what you said, that you put into your work. And I can only be as I feel the way about what I do, and I just hope other people can get to that point as well, because they deserve it. They
They
deserve to be
do.
happy. You
They
know?
do. And I want to say also, just while we have this on the official record here,
Yeah.
the success that I have is a result of my wife, Shay, of
Yeah.
our connection, of her involvement in our business every step of the way. She and our son, Eddie, work on that weekly video. Eddie actually edits the video. Eddie's 22. He's in Berkeley College of Music in Boston. And he's a great musical student up there, music producer, but he's also producing the podcast. And so I call these lifelines, which is why that word lifelines connects, which is about connecting the people you love
Mm.
to the purpose of your job, to the joys and passions that you share, to your health experiences, to your spiritual growth. When you connect everything together and view the aspects of your influence, the spheres of your life, not as separate projects that you have to compartmentalize,
Yeah.
and that all demand your time, man, that will definitely wreck you.
Yeah.
You will not have enough time to do that, or enough energy. But when you can look up and take that higher level view and say, how does it all fit together? And what choices can I make that support everything in a better way and bring it into better congruence? That's when you will unlock that capacity. And so my family has given me that for sure, and made me a lot more comfortable in the chaos that is our daily life. Because even though we might not be exactly sure where we're going, we know it's going to be pretty fun, and we know it's going to be congruent with who we are.
Yeah, and doing it and being okay with being off balance. And I love the idea of balance, and then the idea of balancing. It's perpetual, it's ongoing, it's never ending. But it's okay to be that way. Everybody wants, feels like, oh, I need to have everything in control, and no, keep moving forward. And I heard just recently, and I forget who it was, said, everyone's trying to go for perfection, and it's progress, and keep moving forward, and one step at a time, 1 inch, you know that kind of thing, the journey part of it. I can go on and on and on about that stuff, but I
Yeah,
will
I'm
let you
sure we
go.
could go
And
on and on all day.
I love this stuff, and getting to talk to you. This whole podcast idea came about because I'm fans of the books. I'm fans of your material. and getting to speak with you and Eric and a lot of the other guys that I only they see on the side of a book, but you're real people, you're real genuine, you're some of the nicest people out there, and I appreciate it. And your wife Shay as well, and I'm a big fan. I'll be following you for forever there, and hopefully we'll see you in next year or so up on that big
Sounds good,
stage.
John.
So
100%.
all right. Well, as Coach from the Be Best You podcast, in order to be the best version of yourself, so you can lead others. I think you got some great content here. Definitely visit Dan's materials and get to work. Be off balanced.